Folks, welcome to the Canadian GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 6. I'm your host, as always, the Taxter behind the mic, Sarthak for some, or for many actually. But regardless, we don't have Dalvin alongside us in the comms box today. Evidently, he is on a vacation of some sort. It is December, it is the winter. It hasn't stopped raining for about 48 hours wherever I am right now. But yeah, the boys are out on track. Will be out on track soon enough. We got 9 drivers today who will be racing and ensuring they don't meet the wall of champions. Of course, Canada. I've gotten behind the mic of another league and I watched a race and commentated for a race at Canada just, about last week or so. Hopefully, the game should come onto your screen about now. I like to think. There we go. Alright. Oh. Uno momento. Oops. Alright, folks. We're back. All good. Everything's fine. Just like everything will be fine out on track. Hopefully for this man Envy, as it's been for pretty much the entirety of the season. It's been a runaway lead for Envy so far, and I don't think his closest competitor has a shot. Andre was and has been for the longest time this season Envy's closest competitor in the standings. But it does seem like he gets it spot on every time, Envy, as we saw last race particularly, where he was arguably poised to lose the race, but ended up winning it regardless. Levi Tiger Pants is not in attendance today. Big Man Joe, the lone Alfa Romeo, out here at Canada. Mr. Stark, Envy's teammate, has shown up to perhaps help in that Constructors title fight. Dishy as well, out on track. Gouts, of course, a regular here in the Bwoah Racing League. Horning as well, along with Dylan Toe, our newest driver in the league. So the folks watching, make sure you hit that like and ensure you drop in the chat. Who do you think will come out on top in this tiny grid race of the season? Tiniest so far, I'd imagine. And Streeter's in the mix as well. Streeter, another driver who ends up missing out on a race finish time and time again. I believe last 3 races he has DNF'd in the last couple of laps of the race itself. But yeah, no matter. There's always time for redemption when it comes to Bwoah Racing League. We've only met the halfway mark of the season. We're at the halfway mark of the season, and things are just getting started, I'd like to think. And yeah, 9 drivers who will come out on top. Sector 2 goes yellow. Let's have a bit of data out on the screens. Purple Sector 1 by an unlikely competitor. Oh, or perhaps not. Streeter, in fact. There we go. Big Man Joe stepping into the shoes of UK, of course, who's long been known to be the one to come out on a set of intermediates in qualifying session, lay down some rubber, sometimes spin, but regardless, get a proper lap and put himself in the top 5. And Big Man Joe somehow has been doing that time and time again this season. Envy sets the lap time to beat 1 minute 10.814. Didn't go quickly to go provisional P2 so far. We're on board Streeter, however, as he gets not as close as he would like, I'd imagine, to the wall of champions. I believe getting as close as possible is what you want to be doing. Just dancing on the lines of the limits. Dancing on the limits. Not the fastest on the board. Dishy goes 4th fastest with the medium. Scouts relatively slower. Clearly not his best lap, I'd imagine, with a 1 minute 23. That's just a warm-up lap of sorts from Gouts. He steers clear for another car out on track, who seemingly is Big Man Joe. Now, Big Man Joe and Gouts have been going toe-to-toe this season, time and time again. Hopefully we see them as close as we have the last couple of races and, shake up the field a bit. Who knows, P1 for Big Man Joe, he got extremely close to picking off pole last time out. maybe this is the track. He's weaving as much as he can on the back straight to heat up his style. Seems like he's not feeling good out on track on those softs, but heading into the race, the strategies are going to be peculiar to say the least. There was catastrophe in the race I watched and got behind last week around Canada itself. I'd imagine with just 9 cars, there won't be as much catastrophe out on track. Alright then, it looks like Envy is just the sole driver to get in the 1 minute 10 second range. And Big Man Joe, of course, on a fast lap of his own. Don't think he's backed out just yet. Mr. Stark horning. 2 laps on the softs, not a lap time set yet. I'd like to think that's a glitch, but perhaps that's the real deal. But right behind Big Man Joe is horning. It almost seemed like he was trying to get a bit of slipstream ahead of a fast lap incoming. Gets as close as he'd like, close to the wall. Big Man Joe, what kind of lap time will you set across the line? Second fastest on the board. Fails to get into the 1 minute 10 second range. So that's Envy's lap time, which is a proper one at that. 12 minutes left to short qualifying to end. And Envy's still yet to be beaten, but one who does get beaten on the time sheets is Big Man Joe. Quickly done by Andre. Purple sector 3 even. Just something to watch out for. Envy will be looking from the pits. What's to say? Andre isn't on pole. What's to say? Big Man Joe isn't on pole today at the Canadian GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 6. Dylan Toast stepping up quite a bit. He is quicker than Streeter. We still haven't seen a proper lap from the likes of Guts. Dishy's first fast lap has warranted a 6th fastest lap time on the board. Both Guts and Dishy on their outlaps. I wonder what Guts' game plan is. He's been on a couple of outlaps so far. He's gone into the pits, had a set of tires changed as well. He's waiting for someone to get a bit of slipstream, and yeah, it looks like it will be the Mercedes of Andre. But Guts is still nursing that car. Interesting. What's gonna unravel? He's taking his time. Who else is on a fast lap? Andre seemingly heading into the pits, of course, and Big Man Joe has started a fast lap of his own, hoping to beat Andre and Envy, and we'll hop back onto Gouts soon enough. Now, Canada has been one of those tracks I admire for its Sector 2 particularly, even though a lot of people from spectators' point of view enjoy watching Sector 3, particularly the back straight. And as I say that, Big Man Joe has fumbled at the exit of Sector 1 and sent his Alfa Romeo into a spin. Has to stay in position to ensure he doesn't impede any of the other drivers on a fast lap. I believe that was an Alfa Tauri and an Alpine, Dishy and seemingly Streeter perhaps. But yeah, he is well on his way. And as I said, Sector 2 is the part of the track I enjoy watching these cars go the most. They get close. If they ever do get close, it's this tricky little chicane that throws a lot of the drivers off guard, and we've seen even in F1 Esports the likes of David Tonitza getting incredibly close with Opmia, if I remember correctly. Of course, Formula 1, the game, threw them into a frenzy. David Tonitza's car getting onto the wall, quite literally so. But onwards we go with the race in the Bwoah Racing League Season 6. Envy the fastest lap time on the board. You'd like to think Big Man Joe would have gotten closer, but with an incident, he's subject to going for another fast lap. Let's see how he does, shall we? Gouts trumps Big Man Joe on that fast lap and goes 3rd fastest. Wonderful things being seen out on track in Canada. Just quickly. Still struggling to get into the 1 minute 10s by the likes of Gouts and below. Big Man Joe, Dylan Toe, Streeter, Dishy, and even Horning for that matter, who's had a rough season so far. But Mr. Stark still yet to sell lap time. Can he get closer to Envy? He's been known to be relatively quicker in qualifying around a single lap compared to his race itself. Mr. Stark, can he sell lap time to lock out the front row even? Bit of a stretch considering he's going up against Andre and likes to Guts and Big Man Joe, but never say never, as I like to say, and many of these drivers would like to say as well. He's prepping for a fast lap of his own. Envy cautiously watching Andre's lap time on the board across the line. Andre, has he bettered his lap time? Has he trumped Envy? No, he hasn't. In fact, that was a warm-up lap, I'd imagine. 21 seconds off the pace. Andre already a fumble out of turn 2, turn 3, and another fumble. And contact to the wall, to his front wing as well. I'd imagine that lap time will not unravel the way he'd like to. He'll be heading into the pits. But Dylan Toe trumps Big Man Joe to set 4th fastest on the timesheets. Wonderful stuff coming through Dylan Toe. We might just see the best from the rookie. His 2nd race in the season so far. And I believe that is Mr. Stark still moving slowly in Sector 1. Hasn't validated his lap time as well. Will be nursing that car for another warm-up lap ahead of a proper lap to come. Andre, yet again, 13 laps off pace in Sector 2. He is just warming up those tires, I'd imagine. Just taking it nice and slow, weaving a bit, heating up those tires as well. And 1 minute 10.814 is the time to beat, about 100th of a second off of Envy Andre in terms of lap time. But can he beat Envy around a single lap in Canada? And he's still in the pits, taking his time. He feels like he's got a solid lap in. He doesn't really have to, ensure that he needs to extend his advantage. But Gouts, what could be for Gouts? A front row start perhaps, trumping Andre, who's in the 1 minute 10s, has headed into the pits for a fresh set of tires for himself. But yeah, he's now on a fast lap, seemingly on an out lap, Gouts. And hopefully we'll see a stellar lap from him. Big Man Joe as well in the pits, Dishy in the pits, and Mr. Stark still the only driver to yet to sell lap time out in Canada. Let's ride on board Gouts then as he wraps up Sector 3, the back straight. This is the part of the track you can expect some moves being made down the inside ahead of the final corner chicane onto the wall of champions. Hopefully nobody fumbles into that. So far in the qualifying session itself, we haven't seen a fumble into the wall of champions, but Mr. Stark has retired from the session, and that I believe is in Sector 1. He didn't even get to sell lap time in this qualifying session, so it's at the end of the session for Mr. Stark, but it's just the beginning of a fast lap for Gouts as he comes along Sector 1. This is where you can see in the early parts of the race itself, drivers getting incredibly close to one another, a lot of wheel banging, and perhaps passes on this mini straight in Sector 2. And of course, this incredible chicane, you can expect a bunch of wheel banging, in fact, not wall banging. You wouldn't want to see that around Canada. And around that Sector 3 hairpin, Gouts, well done to him. He is ahead of Big Man Joe, his closest competitor, even in the driver's title fight, and seemingly edging closer to Envy. Hopefully he can mount a challenge to Envy, which will be a bit of a stretch if he doesn't get consistent podiums and wins, but consistency is key as he gets close to the wall of champions. Across the line, what kind of lap time will we see out of the McLaren driver in the Bwoah Racing League? Not better one bit. He stays 3rd fastest, still quicker than Dylan Toe and Big Man Joe's closest competitors around Canada. Dishy. He's had fumbles not on his front, seemingly, but folks could argue, saying that he could have positioned the car better, could have backed off better, but that's races from the past. Today in Canada, he sits 6th fastest. We've known him to be that runner at the start, make that jump, 4-position jump into turn 1. He's consistently been able to do that, get his elbows out and get a solid position gain at race start. 6th fastest on the board in that lap time, seemingly across the line. Gives him no advantage whatsoever. We're down to the last 3 minutes of short qualifying, folks. And Envy is the fastest driver out on track. 1 minute 10.814 to beat. Alright, folks, you got to see on board of sector 1 and 2, seemingly purple from Big Man Joe. So he's going for an absolute stunner lap there. It almost seemed like Big Man Joe and Gouts would set a fast lap together by the looks of it, but Gouts backed off and headed into the pits across the line, getting as close as possible to the wall of champions. Big Man Joe goes fastest so far in the session, gets into the 1 minute 10s, and it's a 1 minute 10.798 to trump even Envy's time. So far, as the qualifying comes to the very end, Envy is on a fast lap of his own. Andre goes fastest, trumps Big Man Joe. 1 minute 10.580 time to beat. Big Man Joe, he is on a fast lap of his own once again, but Envy, as he comes along the back straight through the chicane, and he'd get as close as possible to the wall of champions across the line. Can he trump his closest competitors? Yes, he will. 1 minute 10.246, fastest. But can Big Man Joe come back with an even stellar lap time? It does seem like he has backed off to an extent in Sector 2, or maybe he hasn't. Let's stay on board. But right now, Envy fastest out there. Andre, second fastest. Guts has to settle for the second row start. The Big Man Joe across the hairpin seemed like, again, an incredibly slow exit out of the hairpin even. Let's stay on board. I don't think he has it in the back. Definitely not. He has backed off from that lap. So it is Envy on pole position in Canada. Now a rare sight in the Bwoah Racing League for an Aston Martin on pole alongside a Mercedes on the front row, with Andre standing on the front row for the nth time alongside his closest competitor. Big Man Joe and Gouts block up the second row, as you'd imagine. The two, you could say, best of the rest competitors. But Gouts still gunning for the top spot in the driver's title, I'd imagine. if Envy fumbles on the second half of the season, but that is the end of qualifying at Canada.
sports. It's in the game.
Alright folks, after a bunch of issues, 9 drivers have lined up on the grid after the formation lap of the Canadian GP of Bwoah Racing League Season 6 as the fire lights go out. And away we go. Already the Aston Martin seemingly has a better start on the Mercedes, who's caught slouchy already, and Gouts has made the jump on Big Man Joe, who's got a sloppy start himself into turn 1. Gouts is up into P3 and Big Man Joe down the order he goes as he goes wheel to wheel with the AlphaTauri and seemingly has had the worst start out of the bunch of the entire grid here today, with the AlphaTauri's nose in front, the Alfa Romeo trying best to hold on to that P5 in lap number 1, but Dylan Toe closed in on Gouts. Now, what a jump that's been, but Streeter in the back of the pack has retired from the session seemingly. And yeah, has retired from the session. That is the end of the race for Streeter. The man who'd retire at the last couple of laps has found himself retiring at the very first lap, but the race is on and the AlphaTauri and the Alfa Romeo remain as close as possible to each other, a tenth between the two. And it's the Alfa Romeo up in front, but down the inside goes the AlphaTauri. And Big Man Joe saw that coming from Dishy and took the wise line, or perhaps even went wide, because on sector 3 in the main straight, he might just have an advantage going into it. Alright, looks like the action is in the midfield after all, with the gaps extending beyond a second. DRS has been enabled So we can expect moves coming through, and the first move seemingly is Dishy on Dylan Toe. Down the inside, gets so close to the rear wing of that Alpine, but down the inside, even before the chicane, he attempts to move, but is sent straight into the wall, and that's a front wing broken for the Alpha Tauri, who got a bit too eager, seemingly, or perhaps even lost out on that space. But given it happened in the chicane, he was quick to head back into the pits. Right there, Mr. Stark headed into the pits as well with no front wing, had an incident himself, so he has a chain of front wing and tires by the back markers. Now Dylan Toe could have just left a bit more space. He was almost alongside Dylan Toe, Dishy. Yeah, there you have it, folks. It is our lead runner, race leader on the medium, setting a purple sector 2 even. That is how he's had that ability to pull off such a gap. Andre as well, despite being on the hard tires, has pulled over a 4-second gap to Gouts. Dylan to follow, Big Man Joe as well, lost 2 positions since race start, and now running P5, horning up into P6. Now P7, Mr. Stark and Dishy, both with a fresh set of mediums, will be looking to climb through the pack sooner than later. First set of time penalties being handed to the Ferrari driver in horning, 3-second time penalty, and imagine for track limits. Now the closest gap between 2 drivers, of course, is between Big Man Joe and Dylan Toe. He's made that gap work in his favor, down to about 8 tenths or so as they go through the last chicane. And on the main straight, he'll get even closer. So into turn 1 and even in sector 1, you can expect the Alfa Romeo to be breathing down the gearbox of Dylan Toe soon enough, seemingly into turn 2. With a fumble from the Alpine as the rear kicks out, there's opportunity. Big Man Joe, 3 tenths, the gap to the Alpine. This is what he needed to make that pass, but I'd imagine ERS is in the favor of the Alpine driver. He's got more in the tank in comparison to the Alfa Romeo one. So Big Man Joe needs to be tactical here. Sector 3 lights up yellow. That is a full course yellow with Mr. Stark out of this race. Let's stay on board Envy. And that is a safety car. That is a safety car. Folks, that is a safety car. And that is the Wall of Champions taking its first victim out on track. Streeter disqualified from the session. Mr. Stark retires on the main set. Envy heads straight into the pits. Andre stays out. Can we grab a glimpse of Mr. Stark? That is Mr. Stark on your screen right there. Out of the chicane, the final corner, onto the Wall of Champions and sent to a spin. No front right and no front wing even in the wall. Andre takes the lead of this race. Gouts to follow. And Dylan Toe remains outside with Envy heading into the pits for a fresh set of rubber. And that is the hards coming on, and he will tuck right between Dylan Toe and Big Man Joe. There you have it, folks, on lap number 6. We've got 2 retirements already. We're down to this last 7 drivers on the grid. We're going to have a last lap of safety car, I'd imagine, while Dishy catches up. He's got a 30-second gap. He'll be able to catch up to the rest of the field before we have a safety car restart. Envy is the only driver to have pitted, being a front runner. Dishy pit as well for a fresh set of mediums, and might just work out in his favor. This safety car restart is possibly something he needed to get the jump on competitors close to him. And let's see if it works out in his favor. First competitor is Horning, of course, followed by Big Man Joe. Won't be a small feat to make the pass on Big Man Joe or Horning for that matter. But then there's Envy on fresh set of hard tires. Now, the gap between all drivers will stay within a second or so at the safety car restart. But let's talk about the difference in tire life. How much of an impact that's going to have. Of course, Envy doesn't have to go back into the pits. Will he go the distance? Will he set about 27 laps, I'd imagine, or yeah, around 27, 28 laps on the hard tires? Will he take that risk, considering he doesn't have to pit anymore and the rest of the field has to? We'll find out. But safety car in this lap as the drivers circle around sector 3. It is Andre who will be leading, dictating the pace as the safety car, the Aston Martin, heads straight into the pits. And Gouts finds himself running P2 behind his former teammate Andre. Dylan Toe, as a rookie for the first time ever, finds himself running in P3. It's his second race in the Bwoah Racing League. And out the chicane, he's already going for it. Andre has pulled up a second's gap out of the final corner, has caught Gouts sleeping. And Dylan Toe is closing in on Gouts. So Gouts not in a convenient position, clearly enough. He will have 2 cars, not 1. Breathing down his gearbox soon enough. It's an Alpine of Dylan Toe. 2 tenths, and that's Gouts who's binned it out to sector turn 1, in fact. And at the back of the pack is Dishy going down the inside of the Ferrari. Bumps wheels even, and that is Horning now sent into a spin. So that's the McLaren and the Ferrari going into a spin and tumbling down the order. And that is advantage for the AlphaTauri and the Alpine drivers who got in a position at the safety car restart. Andre has pulled up a nice little gap between himself and Dylan Toe, with Envy to follow. 4 tenths the gap between him and the Alpine. Now we're going to see some incredible close racing up the order. Envy, no DRS just yet. Weaves to the right, weaves to the left, gets alongside and up into P2 goes the Aston Martin driver who's leading the driver's title fight this season. And he's going to make it look easier than it was. Dylan Toe is left settling for P3 for now. On lap number 9, picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits even. And that is the race going good to bad real quick for Dylan Toe. Now seemingly left vulnerable for position yet again by another driver. Big Man Joe closing in. He is within a second's gap to Dylan Toe. And he's got the advantage on ERS even, as Envy makes that climb onwards to Andre, who's leading this race. He wants that race lead back, Envy, and he's coming for it.
Sports. It's in the game.